Hey guys, what's going on? This is Rune King from Maxscape, and with me I have a special guest today. Say hi, man.
Hello, guys. It's TBrobson here.
Oh my gosh! This is Brobson. So basically, today I was on the RuneScape homepage, as you can see right now, and I saw the Og blog and its upcoming changes to the evolution of combat. And after reading through this, I found this really interesting. And then I messaged Brobson in game. I was like, "Hey, this is really interesting. You want to do a commentary about this?" Because I like his opinions on things in general, and I just want to talk about how this is going to change the game, how it already has, and more specifically, how it will affect the Maxscape from Scratch series. So the first thing I like to point out is how it has the offensive capabilities of high level. They're increasing the offensive capabilities of high level bosses, and basically what they're doing is they're taking obviously what the title says, like the high level bosses, they're making them tougher. They're going to do more damage. So Tyler and I, like, we went to Saradomin. As you know, we've been doing a lot of God Wars. We went to Saradomin and got 100 kills on one trip, and that's probably not going to be possible anymore since they're going to be doing significantly more damage. Yeah, it's going to be God Wars, Corporal Beast. That's just what it says. And Brobson was saying maybe it's stuff like the Frost Dragons, the Metal Dragons. I don't know, any other monsters you think would be affected by that?
I'm not really sure. Now that I reread it, it just says it'll be the high-level opponents like God Wars and the Corporeal Beast. And it says to name a few. So there could be others, but as far as general PVM, I'm not sure. Initially, I thought Frost Dragons for sure, but now that I'm rereading it, I'm not positive about that. But it says, as mentioned in the last Og blog, I don't know if you read that blog or if you've been reading the high-level forums lately, but people have basically just been raging about the fact that people like us could stay at Saradomin for 100 kills without needing to bank or without needing to get more food or really even use food at all. So as far as that's concerned, I do think it's a good update that they're doing. It's obviously going to make it harder for us. But yeah, I think increasing the offensive capabilities is definitely something they needed to do. But I also think that they should kind of balance that with some sort of increase in the armor, which I guess is kind of the next piece that they're going to talk about here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, to touch on the PVM thing, like we were worried for a little bit that Slayer would be a lot harder, but it looks like it's just going to be bosses, which in a sense it kind of sucks for us right now, but it'll give us something to look forward to in the future, I guess. Because right now I'm like 75 combat stats and wearing Batwing, and just stay at bosses for as long as you want, basically. Um,
It's not. It should be updated. We're not supposed to be able to do that, so I think it's a good update that they're going to make that impossible.
Indeed. Yeah, and I think armor is already starting to rise actually from doing this, so maybe PVM will be a viable way of making money here soon. Um, but basically, the second major change, there's basically three things that are going to make PVM a lot different. Is the change the defensive value of armor, and they really were touching on specifically barrows and necks. It looks like, and how the difference between them isn't necessarily that huge, and how like you don't really need that much armor in the current situations now. Um, Especially since like was it Bandos is pretty much equivalent to the Barrow's armor except it has a prayer bonus, so that's pretty much useless. Um, yeah, there's really no what is it purpose to spend the money on Torva at the moment. And then another interesting thing, let me see if I can find it, is it's going to match the upward curve of experience to progress to the higher levels, making the highest level gear optimal for battling your way to 99. So what it sounds like is instead of a linear progression of armor and health bonus, is going to be exponential growth. So instead of just having a set amount of increase, it's going to greatly increase to kind of match the curve that it takes to level up, which I agree with.
I don't really understand that though, because it says it'll be a better match to the upward curve of XP required to progress through those higher levels, but you're like getting better defensive value on your armor isn't going to increase your XP per hour. So I don't really, you know what I'm saying? Like if they upgraded weapons so that they had higher DPS at higher levels, that would make more sense.
Right.
But it's just for the defensive value of armor. So I don't understand how is that going to match the curve of upward XP.
Maybe if you're taking less damage, like you're taking less time to eat, do less defensive abilities, and can focus more on combat. I'm not sure exactly. I just have to wait and see.
To me, that's either just worded weird or I'm reading it wrong. But it doesn't. To me, that part doesn't make sense. But I'm going to jump ahead for a second here and talk about the strength boost
Go
so
for
that
it.
I can get back to the defensive value of armors. Because in this next paragraph, it says we'll be adding individual strength boost to all Torva, Pernix, and Virtus gear and a few other individual items like the Bandos chestplate. So initially they said they didn't want any offensive capabilities or any offensive, basically, additions to go onto any armor pieces because they wanted it to be strictly defensive and life point based. And now it seems like they're adding them to the BCP specifically because they want it to be better than its current Barrows counterpart. Because at the minute, Barrows is equally as good as Bandos, with the exception of the fact that Bandos does have a prayer bonus, although Varix also has a prayer bonus. So right now, having a full set of Varix is equally as good as having a full set of Bandos, which seems like it's not what they want.
Mm-hmm.
But I think personally they're going about fixing this the wrong way because they're just adding a strength boost back to Bandos, so that it is, again, better than its Barrows counterpart. But I think a better fix would be to simply change the requirement of Bandos to 75, and thus changing all of the God Wars requirements to 75. So it would require 75 defense and range to wear Armadillo, 75 defense to wear Bandos, and then 75 defense to wear Subjugation from Zamorak.
Mm-hmm.
And that way it would kind of go hand in hand with this previous paragraph where it says that they're going to be plotting the values of armors based on an exponential curve rather than a linear one, so that having 70 for Barrows would be good, but having 75 for Bandos would be a lot better. It kind of just makes more sense to raise the required level to wear it so that it exponentially increases the value of that armor, as opposed to just adding a strength bonus onto the current one and leaving it at 70.
Yeah, it seems like more of a natural fix.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Like, if it's going to be an exponential growth, like, what would we have, like, 85 tier armor right now? And that's, like, what, a quarter of the way to 99 as far as experience goes? Maybe a little bit more. So, are they saying, like, gear at 95 or whatever, if they ever release that's going to be, like, 3 times better than that? Or, like, it's interesting to see what they're going to do.
I doubt it'll be as exponentially buffed as the actual XP chart from 1 to 99, but even if it's a small exponential growth, it's still going to be significantly better than the current linear chart, because it doesn't make sense. Because, like you said, getting level 95 is like 3 times as much XP as level 85, so the fact that it's a linear curve as far as the actual boost that the armors that you get for those levels isn't that great. Consider it, like, you have to train for 5 weeks, let's say, to get to 85, and then you have to train another 15 weeks to get from 85 to 95. But the gear that you're getting at level 95 is only slightly better than that of the 85. So even putting it on a small exponential growth chart will significantly increase that bonus, even if it's not to the extent where it's 3 times better. It'll make it more worth going for those levels.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely, like, again, something we'll have to wait and see what they do, because obviously the highest armor in the game is 85, and I don't even think any of that's out yet. That's from the player-owned ports.
Yeah, none of that has come out. Nobody's gotten it, as far as I'm aware.
Awesome. Yeah, moving on to the next and final thing that's really going to affect bossing in general. This is mainly what this is geared towards, I feel like, is the healing effects of abilities. So right now we have Regeneration and Rejuvenate. And Regeneration is that hard ability where when you're out of combat you can heal using your leftover adrenaline. And Rejuvenate is that ultimate where you can heal 40% of your health once a minute. And that's really, really vital if you're doing like a boss, a duo situation, because it's pretty much free health and almost negates the need for food. The only time you wouldn't need food is if that's recharging and you get hit to low health. But like they said, they noticed food was being used less, and that's definitely the case. So what they did is they increased the cooldown to Rejuvenate to 5 minutes. So basically it's 5 times less effective. And the effect of Regenerate is also decreased. I don't know exactly how much it healed, but now they reduced it by 20%. So basically you're going to need a lot more food now, which means prices of food are either going to rise or just going to be more heavily botted and it'll stay about the same. But for the Max Escape from Scratch series, it definitely means that we just need to fish more food in general. And trips aren't going to be as long, so it's going to be a little more tedious.
Again, I think there's a few things they could have done differently to make this better, but I definitely do think it was overpowered, simply because obviously for us it's more devastating than most people because Rejuvenation was pretty much the only way we were allowed to stay at bosses like indefinitely. But when you think about it from a max player's perspective, they have the ability to use Soul Split as well. So when you combine Soul Split, Regeneration, Rejuvenation, and then other defensive abilities that keep you, like Reflect and Resonance, it's pretty much just you easily out-heal the amount of damage that you're taking 100% of the time. Like, Rejuvenation is almost unnecessary, even as it is in the game if you have Soul Split. So I think maybe what they could have done instead was just maybe change the mechanics of combat so that if you go into an area without a shield, you can't just switch to a shield and then use Rejuvenation right away. Maybe if you start out if you walk into a boss room dual wielding then you have to stay dual wielding, or if you add a shield, there's automatically like a 10-minute cooldown that you have to wait to be able to use defensive abilities.
Yeah.
I think maybe that could have been a better fix, because that way for players like us, who the only option we have is to use rejuvenation to heal, other than food, we don't have soul split, we don't have all those other things that they have. Maybe we could still use that on a minute-to-minute basis, but again, it's something that obviously could just be a major oversight on my end, but I don't know. I think this was kind of necessary, but at the same time, it might be a little bit too much to totally nerf it as much as they seem to be doing.
Right. Well, the thing in parentheses where it says making it an infrequent emergency heal, that makes me wonder like if that was just their original purpose for it, and they just didn't have enough people beta testing to see how overpowered it was. Maybe they intended it to be just an infrequent, but it ended up just being a necessary way to stay alive. So I don't know. So we definitely know how that's gonna work, and that's gonna suck for us. But yeah, again, moving on to the chaotic add-on for the Dragon Claws. Now this is really interesting, I found. Right now, Tormented Demons, the only reason you would go there is if you wanted to try to luck out at a Dragon Limbs drop, which I think are about 20 million right now in the Grand Exchange. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the only two-handed crossbow in the game. I don't even know, honestly.
No, you can get pretty much any crossbow two-handed.
Oh, really? I've never used them, so forget that. But anyways, the important thing is the chaotic. So basically, it's a new chaotic weapon. But what you need is you need Dragon Claws to add on to them. So basically, if these chaotic claws are actually decent weapons, then it looks like Tormented Demons will actually have a use again. Because I watched a friend's video earlier today, and it looked like they were pretty empty, and that no one really went there. Because I don't think many people know about the Dragon Limbs drop. But it's going to be, since you have to have the Dragon Claws, it's going to be less expensive than the Chaotic, so I'm assuming it'll be like maybe 100k, 150k tokens.
Yeah, 150 seems like it's probably going to be the number.
Yeah. Again, we'll have to wait and see. But they're going to have a faster attack speed and increased critical hit chance, so that could be really interesting. Again, it's kind of cool that they added new Chaotic things into the game. I honestly think it would be neat if they added like an entire chaotic armor set, but I don't know how that would work with balancing and all that.
Yeah, it'd probably be difficult to do, especially since it would have equal requirements to next year, and it would just make people mad.
Right.
But one thing I do wish that they kind of did here was, I actually like the mechanic where you need the Dragon Claws, and then the Chaotic is just kind of an add-on to make them Chaotic Claws. I think they should have maybe done that as well with maybe the Rapier and the other Chaotic weapons. They could have released a higher level boss to drop those weapons, like some sort of rapier, Dragon Rapier maybe, and then you can get the Chaotic add-on for 150,000 tokens, and that's how you create your Chaotic Rapier. That seems like a cool idea, but it seems like they're still going to be kind of useless pretty quickly, because it will give you a faster attack speed and an increased crit chance, but people are still going to prefer to use their Chaotic Maul, their like things like that. So it seems like one thing I wish that they did, and I wish that they would do in the future, is bring special attacks back for certain weapons that really need them, like the Dragon Claws. That's really the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. Maybe the AGS as well, because those items have literally lost all of their value since the evolution of combat.
Oh, yeah.
But you could do it in a way that works the evolution of combat into it. You don't necessarily have to make a special attack again. You could just make it an ultimate ability and just make it a weapon-specific ultimate. So you have to have Chaotic Claws to use this ability, and it does the same spec that the Dragon Claws used to do, only on an increased basis with this new crit chance, or increased crit chance and faster attack speed. I think if you add those like weapon-specific abilities, it could make the game. It would pay homage to the old system, and in the same sense, it would make those weapons useful again.
Yeah, and if they did that, they could easily, if they do it right, they can easily balance that and make it so it's not super overpowered or underpowered. They could pretty much do with it whatever they want. Like, they could choose the amount of damage it does, they could choose the cooldown and all this stuff. So,
exactly.
Yeah,
that way it would just be people running around claw specking in the wilderness. Like, first of all, it would be Chaotic Claws, so you'd be risking your Chaotics and 300,000 tokens. And I just think this update is a good one, but I think they really, in the future, need to introduce those weapon-specific abilities. I'm not sure if they've ever even thought about doing that, or that's just an idea that I came up with, but either way, it seems like something that they need in the game moving forward.
Oh, yeah. And then there's a little two-sentence paragraph right here talking about the Calphite Queen and Range Slayer dungeon. And the Range Slayer dungeon is interesting, because what it seems like is magic right now is really overpowered and overused. Like, if you do Slayer, like, the majority of your tasks, it seems like, are all magic, and a lot of the bosses you kill you have to use magic for. Then with the Calfight King, obviously they're going to have level 90 weapons, I believe it is. So it seems like they're upping melee right now, and I'm curious to see what they'll do with the range Slayer Dungeon, because with range right now, Anarchy seems to disagree, but I feel like it's really underpowered, and I'm wondering if they're going to add new drops to that, kind of like they did Ganodermic with the Magic Slayer Dungeon and all that. Just a thought.
Yeah. I don't know if it's underpowered as much as it is just underused. There's not enough high level monsters for range to ever use it. I
Right.
noticed that even like with the Dominion Tower, all the quest bosses, I can pretty much use magic, and the ones that I don't use magic, I use melee. Like there's no need to use ranged.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, if you use dual-wielded crossbow, even with weaker bolts like broad bolts, you're still doing massive DPS. So I don't think it's underpowered. I just think the need for it is too low.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed you
And
took... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I said I noticed you took a range switch and you didn't even use it last night.
Yeah, like I went through 140 floors, never used my range gear, even though I had the tribrid set up. So
Awesome.
I don't know. I think this is basically just going to be the polypore equivalent for ranged, and hopefully it's successful because again, a dermic beast task for ranged would be a great high-level addition to Slayer, in my opinion.
Definitely. And it'll just bring range back, because honestly, I like using range now. Maybe it's because I never get to use it, but I don't know. It's a good combat skill, and
Yeah, ranged. And I think the abilities look the coolest. The animations for abilities are the coolest.
Oh,
with
yeah.
ranged.
Like the incendiary shot where you just see like that massive, just like 5,000 when you use it. I like that.
Deadshot's pretty cool too.
Oh god, that. Yeah. So, and then the final thing I read, I was a little bit upset. I was kind of expecting the Calfight King to come out tomorrow morning, but it looks like it's gonna be coming out the week starting the 14th of January. So starting next Monday, there's gonna have a whole skew of updates. So it looks like the Calfight King, the toughest monster ever, and then also Hattie and Skull, which for those of you who don't know, they've released these I think 2 times in the past. And Hattie, it drops paws that give you, I think it's double combat experience for a certain amount of time, and Skull drops his boots, which give you double agility or woodcutting experience. So I'm really looking forward to the agility experience there. And
Yeah,
then
the amount of experience you get is based on your level, so don't ask is it 100k, because it's scaled based on your level.
okay, that's good to know. And then as well as a huge list of player recommended changes to the rest of the game. So that's promising, knowing that they're listening to our feedback and what we want to see, what we want to know. Even though they released this EOC against most of our wills. But honestly, it's a good update for the game, and I back them 100%. But again, it's just good and relieving to see that they do listen to us as players. And I assume all of this is going to take place during that week as well, this whole post.
Yeah, most likely.
Maybe not the chaotic add-on for claws, but as far as the EOC changes go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see when that chaotic claw thing comes out.
Definitely. Just gives us one more chaotic to get. Anyways,
Yeah.
guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. You have anything else to say, Brobson?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to look back on this because at first we kind of just went over each of these things individually, but now I'm looking at them all together, and I kind of feel like they're over nerfing it in a sense if you look at the way all of this works together, because like I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say, but they're increasing the offensive capabilities of high-level bosses. They're saying, okay, that was necessary, but then they're adding strength boost and set effects to your gear, so it's like, okay, that's kind of unnecessary. And then they're changing the defensive value of armor and nerfing the healing ability. So it's like, it kind of seems like nothing's going to change. It's just going to be a little bit different. Like, you're not going to be able to use regenerate every minute anymore, but your defensive gear for higher levels is going to be so much higher on an exponential curve over what it currently is that you're probably not going to lose damage at that much of a rate anymore. And then at the same time, they're increasing the amount of damage that you're going to be taking. But again, they're increasing the defensive stats on your gear, and they're increasing the strength boost on your gear. So you're basically going to be killing the boss faster, even though he's hitting you harder, but he won't really be hitting you harder because your armor is higher. So I don't know. It kind of seems like individually all of these could be viable options, but if they're releasing them all together at the same time, it's just going to, like, nothing's going to change. It's just going to eliminate the need to use regenerate.
Right.
You won't be able to use regenerate, but you won't need to.
But at the same time, maybe that's what they're intending. Maybe they're setting the stage for future updates. Like with the exponential curve, like, I'm not 100% sure because I'm not keeping up with the green exchange prices, but I don't think Nex is very profitable anymore. I don't know if people have much incentive to go to it. But maybe adding this, and when they add new high-level content and new high-level gears in the game in the future, like, it'll become more of an incentive to keep doing that, and then that way like max players would stay more at those high level bosses, and then players about our level could stay at God Wars, or I don't know exactly, but I'm sure they thought about those things you're talking about. If we could pick it out in like 20 minutes, I'm sure the people who make this game have at least thought about that, and who knows, they probably have something planned.
But I mean, ultimately the goal, right, is to make it so that the max players aren't doing God Wars anymore because they would be doing next and because it would be better for them. And that would leave the lower level content to the lower level players. But in doing this update, they're trying to increase the value of Barrows, or not Barrows, of Bandos and all of those types of God Wars armor. So it's going to give incentive to those higher level players to do it. And when you think about it in terms of they're adding strength bonuses to Bandos, they're adding strength bonuses to Torva. So max players are going to have incentive to go back to Bandos because it's going to be profitable again with the GP rise with these updates. And they're going to have these new level 90 rapiers from the Calfight King, and they're going to have Torva, which is going to have buff defensive stats. So it's just, and a strength bonus and set effects. So it's like, I feel like they're almost counteracting what they're trying to do by they're trying to increase the value to make players do their level content, but it's going to give them incentive to do lower level content to make more money.
That's interesting. Yeah, I can agree with that.
It'll be interesting to see how it all works out, but
definitely may be more annoying when they crash you at God Wars.
Yeah.
At that point. Awesome. Well, I think that's it. I think we've covered this whole post. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys enjoyed having Brobson on. Very grateful he agreed to come on with me and talk about this. Yeah, thanks again for doing that. And yeah, awesome. Love you guys. Have a good day and take care.
See you soon, guys.